Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into a comprehensive, science-backed protocol for preventing feather plucking in captive birds. If you manage an avian boarding facility, or even if you're just a dedicated caretaker at home, you know exactly how devastating it can be to watch a highly intelligent creature turn on itself. So we're going to look closely at environmental enrichment and stress reduction strategies to help stop this heartbreaking cycle in its tracks.
Before we map out the specific protocols, let's ground ourselves in a really crucial reality. Feather destruction is a profound cry for help. It is not just a quirky habit. It represents a systemic health failure or deep psychological stress. Chronic plucking doesn't just look bad on the surface. It progresses to actual tissue damage, self-mutilation, and lasting behavioral scars that are incredibly difficult to reverse.
So, here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with the invisible avian crisis, move into the science of enrichment, tackle designing a safe sanctuary, discuss behavior management and triage, and finally look at moving from surviving to thriving.
All right, Section 1, the invisible avian crisis.
Take a look at the intense gaze of this macaw. It's a powerful reminder of a fundamental survival trait. Birds instinctively hide their illness until it becomes life-threatening. Out in the wild, showing weakness makes you a target. But in captivity, it means that early detection of psychological distress or physical illness is absolutely critical. We literally cannot afford to wait around for the damage to become obvious.
And this comparison brilliantly illustrates what researchers call the intelligence gap. It's a stark, devastating contrast. A wild parrot's highly stimulated life involves up to 6 hours a day of foraging, problem-solving, and navigating complex social hierarchies. Now look at the captive boarding reality. Those exact same cognitive needs are often met in under 15 minutes of activity. This crushing boredom manifests as repetitive pacing, screaming, and eventually compulsive feather plucking. It's a severe deficit of agency and stimulation.
We really have to recognize that the triggers for this kind of decay rarely exist in isolation. If a bird is plucking, you've got to audit 3 dimensions. First, physical triggers, like hidden pain, liver disease, or nutritional deficiencies. These are often mistakenly labeled as behavioral problems. Second, environmental triggers, like poor ventilation, improper lighting, or lack of access to bathing. And finally, psychological triggers, chronic stress that actually alters neurotransmitter levels, throwing serotonin and dopamine totally out of whack. All of these compound to drive compulsive behavior.
So, how do we fix this? That brings us to Section 2, the science of enrichment.
The data gives us an incredible roadmap here. By implementing targeted environmental enrichment programs, facilities have documented a staggering 60% reduction in stereotypic behaviors. That is a massive improvement in a bird's psychological welfare, simply by changing their immediate surroundings and daily routine.
On top of that, when proper environmental challenges are consistently applied, we actually see a 50% decrease in plucking incidents. This is huge. It proves we have the power to reverse this invisible crisis just by addressing those underlying cognitive and physical deficits.
To hit those incredible numbers, we rely on what are known as the 5 pillars of wellness. These literally recreate the pathways a bird naturally craves. Foraging engages cognitive search pathways. Physical space allows for climbing and wing flapping. Social needs require safe interaction. Sensory wellness demands UV light, fresh air, and bathing. And cognitive wellness is fed by puzzle solving and novelty.
Let's dive a bit deeper into this foraging progression, which is arguably the ultimate anti-stress tool. We have got to transition away from simple bowl feeding, which is just passive instant gratification. By moving to active foraging puzzles and eventually complex hide-and-seek feeders, we mimic wild foraging. This promotes natural beak usage, slows down their food intake, and transforms a quick 5-minute meal into hours of meaningful, brain-engaging activity.
But here's the catch. You can't just throw a puzzle in the cage and forget about it. Static environments cause habituation, meaning the bird's brain literally stops responding to familiar stimuli. So rotating toys and enrichment objects every 7 to 14 days is absolutely essential. This simple strategy of introducing novelty sustains psychological stimulation, maintains curiosity, and is proven to boost engagement levels by 50%.
Once we've got the enrichment sorted, we need to look at the macro environment. Section 3, designing a safe sanctuary.
Look at this beautifully curated space. It really highlights the need to protect enclosures from high-traffic corridors and entry points. Frequent starter responses trigger chronic stress and compound anxiety over time. We need to create zones that feel inherently safe to a prey species. And getting there means conducting some rigorous environmental audits. You've absolutely got to eliminate toxic fumes from boarding zones. Things like non-stick cookware, off-gassing, aerosol cleaners, and scented candles. Those are acutely dangerous to avian respiratory systems. But we also have to hunt for invisible stressors, things humans might completely ignore like high-frequency appliance hums, sudden shadow movements, or flickering lights.
To truly reduce vigilance fatigue, that exhausting state of just constantly being on alert, facilities have to implement what we call sanctuary standards. This includes using room dividers to create micro-sanctuaries for privacy. It requires dedicated sleep cages in dark, isolated environments to guarantee strict 10 to 12-hour rest cycles, because disrupted sleep is a massive stressor. Finally, use acoustic mapping, like gentle white noise, to mask jarring sounds like door slams or machinery.
Okay, but what happens when an issue does pop up? Section 4, Behavior Management and Triage.
Let's break down the ABC model of applied behavior analysis. This is a total game changer. It's a fundamental shift from reacting with punishment to proactively designing a supportive environment. A stands for antecedent. Identify and manage the environmental triggers before a behavior happens. B is behavior. Observe the bird's response without reactive punishment. C is consequence. Positively reinforce calm and exploratory behaviors.
Now, if prevention fails and you're dealing with an active injury or bleeding, behavioral modifications have to hit the pause button immediately. You must follow strict veterinary triage. Step 1 is immediate vet intervention for wounds. Step 2 is a full clinical workup to rule out underlying disease, allergies, or chronic pain before just assuming it's psychological. And Step 3 recognizes that quick fixes simply don't exist. Recovery demands patient, long-term, multimodal management.
Let's move to our final section and pull this all together. Section 5, From Surviving to Thriving.
We absolutely cannot forget the social pillar. Just look at these two. For these highly social colony-living species, flock status is a biological need. It is not a luxury. Isolation causes genuine psychological distress. Providing supervised, structured social time, or at the very least visual and auditory access to other birds, acts as actual medicine. But remember, never force direct contact, because unwanted interaction just makes the stress worse.
And keep in mind, the boarding term doesn't just magically end at checkout. To bridge the gap, caretakers need to provide a detailed discharge report, documenting the enrichment strategies that worked best for that specific bird. It's really all about long-term advocacy, educating the client on sustaining nutritional wellness, like converting to pelleted diets, and keeping up with routine veterinary checks back at home. This quote right here beautifully summarizes our ultimate goal. We've got the data, we've got the science of enrichment, and we've got the sanctuary standards. It is entirely within our power to transform the captive experience from a period of mere survival into genuine stress-free psychological growth. I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on. Take a hard look at the environments you manage, or maybe even the enclosure sitting right there in your living room, and the incredible, highly intelligent creature within it. If they're built by nature to spend 6 hours a day solving complex problems, what one change will you make today to close that intelligence gap? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.